I paid for land in Ajah, Lagos State, Nigeria. The receipt said Ajah. The document said Ajah. The agent, smartly dressed, confident, persuasive, assured me, multiple times, that the land was in Ajah. Every detail seemed professional. The site brochure featured elegant 3D renderings, gated entrances, asphalt roads, and recreational parks. During the inspection, we rode in an air-conditioned bus with branded water bottles and t-shirts. They showed us pegs, cleared spaces, even a signpost with the estate name in bold. It all looked real. But 3 months later, I was invited for my allocation. We drove 4 hours. Past Elko Junction. Beyond Abiju Lekki. Farther than any of the areas mentioned during the pitch. I remember checking Google Maps, no signal. I asked the site supervisor if we were still in Lagos. He nodded casually. "Yes, sir, just the outskirts," he said. But as we crossed a narrow bridge and hit a red dusty path, I saw it. A weather-worn signboard, "Welcome to Ogun State." I stopped. I turned to him. "Wait. This isn't Ajah." He smiled. "Technically, sir, it's within the Abiju Lekki expansion zone." My heart sank. I bought land in Lagos. And got allocated in another state entirely. No prior notice. No official letter. No explanation. Just quiet relocation masked as development strategy. And I'm not alone. Across Nigeria, thousands of investors are being misled, sometimes deliberately, sometimes through omission, into believing they're buying in one place, only to be allocated in another. It's not a mistake. It's not a coincidence. It's a calculated pattern that's been normalized within the industry, hidden beneath clever marketing language and technical land jargon the average buyer can't decode. But what's really going on behind these deals? Why does this keep happening? And how can an entire transaction, supported by documents and receipts, still leave you stranded somewhere you never intended? This is the untold story of how land is sold in Nigeria. And why where you buy is rarely where you're allocated. If stories like this grip you, tap like, it tells me to keep uncovering more. Comment where you're watching from and what time it is. It's wild how far these stories travel. And if you haven't yet subscribed, hit the subscribe, like and share. Let's get into it then. What happened to me isn't rare. In fact, the deeper I dug, the more I realized this wasn't an isolated mistake, it's a pattern. Across Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, and beyond, thousands of land buyers have experienced the same quiet shock. Different estates. Different companies. Same outcome. You believe you're buying land in one place. But when allocation time comes, the site is in an entirely different location. And it doesn't hit you immediately. It creeps in slowly, like a bad dream unfolding in real time. First comes the inspection delay. Then vague explanations. Then the phone calls stop getting returned. And finally, when you do hear from them, you're told to just come and collect your allocation, it's ready. But no one tells you that ready doesn't mean right. Because when you finally make the trip, the address is wrong, the state is wrong, and worst of all, your legal documents are technically correct. That's when the real panic sets in. Because the money is gone. And so is the truth. Some people cry. Others get angry. Many never recover. I've spoken with retirees who used their entire pension to buy land for their children, only to discover that what they bought was bushland miles from the promised location, with no infrastructure, no roads, and no neighbors. Young professionals, hoping to build rental properties in developing areas, instead get a random plot 2 hours away from the nearest paved road. Some investors are even given land on waterlogged marshes that can't legally be built on. And when they complain, they're told to either swap location or resell to someone else. It's a silent tragedy, one that rarely makes the news. Because these are not armed robbers. These are marketers in suits. These are real estate companies with glossy flyers, branded buses, and catchy slogans. Their photos look good. Their social media presence is clean. But the story behind the images is something else entirely. And here's what's even more disturbing: most of the people who fall for this, they're smart, educated, professional, sometimes even cautious. They ask questions. They go on inspections. They take photos. They review documents. But still, they end up in the wrong place. Because the scam isn't always in what they show you. It's in what they don't show. It's the difference between location name and coordinates. It's the assumption that if something looks professional, it must be legitimate. It's the trust we place in confidence, charisma, and well-rehearsed sales pitches, forgetting that confidence is not proof. This video is not just about my story. It's about the system that made it possible. In the next few minutes, you'll see how this scheme works. You'll learn the exact tactics real estate companies use to legally sell you land in one place and allocate you somewhere else. You'll see how even seasoned investors get trapped, and the one step you must take to avoid it. Because if you're thinking of buying land in Nigeria, what you're about to learn could save you millions. There's a kind of joy that only comes once you decide to buy land in Nigeria. For a moment, you feel invincible. Like you've crossed some invisible line from just surviving to building. From tenant to landlord. From someone chasing opportunities to someone securing generational wealth. It begins innocently enough. You see a post on Instagram, a real estate agent holding a certificate, smiling beside a new landowner. The caption reads, "He secured his future today. When are you buying yours?" You scroll past it. But later that night, you think about it again. You remember your uncle's story, the one who bought land in Ikorodu when it was still cheap. Now it's triple the value. He built 4 flats and he's collecting rent from each one. You start doing the math. You begin to think, why not me? Then your cousin calls. She says, they're allocating plots in Ape. My friend just bought 2. They're almost sold out. Better hurry before price go up again. Suddenly, the pressure starts to rise. Family group chat, Twitter threads, YouTube videos. Everyone's talking about real estate and ownership, and you need to own something before you turn 30. The fear of missing out creeps in. You see reels of investors walking confidently through cleared land, holding branded folders, posing in front of giant estate signboards. Everyone is smiling. Everyone is celebrating. You tell yourself, it's time. So you call an agent. He's polite. He calls you boss. He sends documents. He tells you, this land is in a prime area. 15 minutes from the express. Dry land. Title is C of O. You'll be proud you invested here. You feel seen. You feel respected. He offers to pick you up for inspection. You say yes. And when the day arrives, it feels surreal. You meet at a popular spot. The bus arrives, white, clean, the estate logo on the side. You get in. The seats are arranged neatly. There's water. Jollof rice. A branded pen. You're impressed. Other buyers are there too, all asking questions, all excited. The agent keeps talking, this estate go be like Banana Island in 5 years. You all laugh. But a part of you believes it. Then you arrive. The sun is out. The land looks cleared. They show you pegs. There's a signboard. There's someone holding a file, writing names. They point and say, "That's where the perimeter fencing will start. That's the clubhouse area. That side go be drainage." It looks good. It feels good. You take photos. You record videos. You even call your siblings on FaceTime and say, "We don do am. We don buy land oh." And when you pay, it feels like destiny unfolding. You receive your receipt. A digital flyer with your name and plot number is posted on the company's Instagram. You screenshot it. You post it on your WhatsApp status. The congratulations start pouring in. You sleep that night with a sense of pride you've never felt before. You feel like you've broken a curse. But what if I told you that the land you think you bought doesn't even exist on the map? What if I told you that the inspection site was just a decoy? That the actual land tied to your documents is somewhere else entirely? What if the address you saw was never real? Not a typo. Not a mistake. But an intentional illusion, designed to make you feel safe long enough to pay. Because in a system where documents are vague, maps are absent, and agents are trained to sell dreams, even the most careful buyer can be led into a story that isn't theirs. A story that ends somewhere you never planned to go. The truth begins to unravel the moment you ask a real question. "Please, can I get the coordinates of the land I paid for?" That's when the tone shifts. The agent, once cheerful, responsive, attentive, suddenly sounds less certain. He tells you, "No worry, it's coming." You follow up again. He says, "The surveyor is compiling everything." You wait. Days pass. Then weeks. And slowly, the realization begins to settle in. They can't give you the coordinates, because the land tied to your name has no fixed location. It was never about a specific plot. It was never about one estate. You weren't buying land. You were buying an idea. Here's how it works: most buyers never ask for coordinates. They don't know they need to. So developers don't bother offering them. Instead, you're given a receipt. Maybe an invoice. Sometimes even an allocation letter with a generic layout map, the kind that could have been designed in Microsoft Paint. No bearings. No latitude. No longitude. No reference points. Just boxes on a paper. The layout map looks convincing. But it's not tied to any physical geography. It's a placeholder. A visual decoy. The survey plan? It might be photoshopped. Yes, this is real. Some developers copy old survey diagrams from completely different locations. They change the title, edit the legend, blur out the real coordinates, and stamp it with a fake seal. To the untrained eye, it looks official. But if you send it to an actual surveyor, it collapses in seconds. The coordinates point to a swamp, or a river, or sometimes, to a location that doesn't even exist on official state records. But that's not the part that gets you. What truly traps buyers is the language. General location. You'll hear this phrase a lot. This land is within the general Ibiju-Lekki axis. Just off Monastery Road. Close to the free trade zone. Right beside the new airport. What they don't tell you is that general location is legally meaningless. It could mean 15 minutes away. Or 2 hours away. It could mean one side of the express. Or another state entirely. In one case, a buyer paid for land in Sangatito. The marketing materials showed Sangatito. The inspection was in Sangatito. The receipt said Sangatito. But the allocation? Somewhere past Ape. That's over 70 kilometers away. And here's where it gets even more dangerous: they use real landmarks to sell fake proximity. They'll say, only 10 minutes from Dangote refinery. But they don't mention that 10 minutes is by helicopter. They exploit the confusion between LGAs and boundaries. They play on the overlap between postal addresses and political zones. They'll tell you the land is in Lagos. But if you ask the Ministry of Lands, you'll find out it's in Ogun. They do this because they know most buyers will never check. They know that once your money has been paid, you've passed the point of return. They offer you another estate, a replacement, something similar. And by then, most people just accept it. Because what's the alternative? Go to court? Spend 2 years chasing in $3 million through legal paperwork? They know you won't. That's the lie. It's not just about one agent making a mistake. It's a coordinated system built on vague promises, informal agreements, and verbal persuasion, all designed to move faster than your doubt can catch up. And the scariest part? It's not just agents doing this. Sometimes, even the developers play the game. If it were just one developer, or one shady agent, this story would have a simple ending. But it's not. This isn't a single scam. It's a system. A carefully structured ecosystem where misinformation thrives. Because no one is watching. Let's start at the top. In most countries, real estate is one of the most tightly regulated industries. Land sales are governed by strict zoning laws, verified land registries, and formal valuation boards. Before a plot is sold, it must be surveyed, registered, and often approved by a city planning authority. But in Nigeria, you can open a real estate company today and start collecting deposits tomorrow. There is no mandatory licensing, no central verification portal, no government agency tasked with pre-approving estate marketing materials before they go live. And so, chaos flourishes. Developers operate in legal gray zones. They use ambiguous addresses, delayed surveying, and verbal clauses that leave buyers legally powerless. Even when they get caught, there's rarely any consequence. At most, they move operations under a different company name, and keep going. Now you may ask, but why don't buyers check more carefully? The truth is, most of them don't know they need to. Because the system is designed to appear legitimate. You see branded shirts, a functioning website, a CAC registration, a few drone shots on Instagram, a list of past clients, real or imagined. And that's usually enough. Even smart buyers skip the hard questions. They don't ask for coordinates. They don't verify the title with the Ministry of Lands. They don't send an independent surveyor. They trust the inspection they saw with their eyes, forgetting that the real fraud happens on paper. But the most effective tool the system uses? Hype. And today, hype comes in the form of influencers. Some are celebrities. Others are lifestyle vloggers. Some are just marketers with large followings who wear suits and speak confidently into a camera. They stand on cleared land, hold branded folders, and say things like, "This estate is just 10 minutes from the new Lekki airport. This is the next big thing. Don't miss out." They don't mention that the land is under excision. They don't disclose that it's on swampy terrain. They don't clarify that the location being advertised isn't the actual plot, it's just a general reference point used to stir emotion. And because people trust personalities more than institutions, those videos get thousands of views. Buyers send money without even visiting the site. Because if a celebrity said it's real, then it must be. But here's the part most people never consider: marketing addresses aren't legal. The name of the estate? Just branding. The address they put on the flyer? Sometimes, completely fabricated. The only thing that proves where your land is, the only thing, is a set of GPS coordinates tied to an official survey plan. Stamped and registered. Everything else? Just packaging. And in a system where there's no oversight, no centralized land verification, and no consequences for deception. That packaging is often enough to take millions from honest buyers. Because when there are no rules, winning just means being the best at selling the illusion. By the time most buyers realize something is wrong, it's too late. The receipt is already printed. The welcome email has already been sent. Your name is already posted on the company's page, "Congratulations to our newest landowner." And in your heart, you believe you've won. That belief is what keeps you quiet, at least, at first. But then weeks pass. Then months. No allocation. You send a message. They respond with enthusiasm, "We'll allocate next month, sir. Engineering team is working on the road." You wait. Another message, "We're doing bulk allocation. Yours is already in the second batch." Still nothing. Now you're getting nervous. You request a refund. Suddenly, they go quiet. So you visit the office. You walk in. A new receptionist is at the desk. She can't find your file. She tells you to come back in a few days. You return, and this time you meet the marketer, the same man who once called you boss and followed up like clockwork. Now his voice is dry. He doesn't offer water. He says, "Sir, you signed the agreement now." You pause. Because that's the moment it hits you. That document they handed you weeks ago, the one you signed without reading fully because they said it was just standard paperwork, that's where the trap is buried. Clause 4b, developer reserves the right to allocate within the estate or its surrounding expansion zones based on availability. Clause 6a, client acknowledges receipt of documents and waives the right to dispute location once allocation is completed. Clause 7d, refund requests shall be subject to administrative deductions and may take up to 180 working days. Every line. Perfectly crafted to box you in. And now, you're boxed in. You paid for land in Ajah. But technically, they never promised you a specific plot. You want to sue? You can try. But land cases in Nigeria can take 3 to 5 years. Sometimes longer. And during that time, the developer continues operating, changing names, starting new projects, and collecting from new buyers. The lawyer you hire will ask for an advance. The case will be adjourned, again and again. And one day, they'll tell you the land is now part of another estate under a different company. But the story doesn't end in courtrooms. It ends in people's homes. With buyers sitting quietly in living rooms, staring at dusty documents that no longer mean anything. It ends in guilt. Husbands unable to explain to their wives what happened to the savings. Parents who wanted to leave something for their children, now afraid to tell them they've been duped. It ends in phone calls that go unanswered. In email inboxes full of automated replies. And in WhatsApp groups that slowly fall silent, as each member realizes they've all been played. Some try to fight back. They post online. They name the companies. But real estate in Nigeria is a web. Powerful names. Well-connected boards. Threats of legal action for defamation. And so the voices die down. The story fades. The scam continues. And here's what most people don't know, the part that makes all of this so terrifying: the scam doesn't start with allocation. It doesn't start with fake maps. It doesn't even start with the land. It starts the moment you call that agent. The moment you say, "Hello, I'm interested in buying land." That's when the machine turns on. Because everything after that, every message, every flyer, Every smile is part of the script. A script designed to make sure you don't ask the right questions until it's far too late. 3 months later, when they invited me for allocation, I was ready. Because in Nigerian real estate, what you know determines whether you win or lose. Not how much money you have. Not how early you bought. Not even how genuine the agent seemed. Just one thing. What you knew, and when you knew it. Because here's the hidden truth, the scam doesn't require fake documents. It doesn't even require lies. All it needs is silence. One piece of information held back. One detail conveniently skipped. One coordinate never sent. That's all it takes. Because in that silence, the damage grows. That's the real danger. And that's why so many people keep falling for it, even the educated, even the experienced, even the careful. Because they're making decisions based on hope, not data. They're trusting brochures instead of coordinates. Smiles instead of survey plans. Packaging instead of policy. But what I've learned, painfully, slowly, is that the real transaction isn't just the land. It's the knowledge. The questions you ask. The things you double check. The professionals you consult before you ever sign your name. That's the real investment. And if you miss that part, then the land doesn't matter. Because even if you hold the receipt, you'll still be empty-handed. That land I showed you? Plot 127. It's more than just numbers on a survey plan. It's peace of mind. It's proof that I didn't just hope for the best, I planned for it. And I want the same for you.